It's 106 on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the John Phillips Show. Johnny's on vacation this week, so he is probably sipping some bourbon on a beach somewhere in some island. Who knows? Johnny will be back on Monday. It's Randy Wang here, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. The phone number to join us, 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. A lot of emails came in the last half hour. It's kind of hard for me to go through them during the show. So I think what we'll do is 2:35. We'll read a bunch of emails throughout the day because there's so many people that want to comment on the Kia and Hyundai and Rob Bonta and all that fun stuff. You can also follow me on the social medias. I am Randy Wang Radio on Twitter and Randy Wang Radio on Instagram. You can see all the pictures of all the food that I like to make. It is the Fix California Hour, and we're getting to a point where some Californians are looking to fix it themselves. We just told you about rampant car thefts where it seems like not a lot is being done. Police departments are being stretched so thin they cannot respond to everything that's out there. We told you last week of a sandwich shop, Capriotti's in Chatsworth, that was the victim of an armed robbery. That being an apologetic armed robbery, but an armed robbery nonetheless. And after they called 911 that they got robbed at gunpoint, it took police 48 minutes to get there. That is unacceptable. I understand they're stretched thin, but something needs to be done about that. That is why we are starting to see in San Francisco, and remember, San Francisco, which we cover a lot on this show, and the Bay Area is the ghost of Christmas future when it comes to what happens here in Los Angeles. It usually happens in San Francisco first, and whether it succeeds or fails, LA tries the exact same thing. Before we started talking about safety ambassadors in West Hollywood and safety ambassadors on the Metro, there were safety ambassadors in San Francisco. London Breed, how did that go?
People have been stabbed in Earth and Alchemy. They've been shot. They've been attacked. And they still show up every single day as an alternative to policing for this community.
Obviously, that alternative has not worked. Hasn't worked up there. It's not working down here. But what now some people are doing in the streets of San Francisco when they realize that things like car break-ins are rampant, they're happening all over the place, and for a crime that low level with the police department stretched so thin, they won't even respond if you call them to come out because they're happening every few minutes. There is one man in San Francisco who's decided to take the law into his own hands. He's decided to put on a mask. I don't believe he's wearing a cape, but he does have a weapon. He's not the hero that we deserve, but he's the hero we need right now. There is a masked vigilante going after people that break into cars in San Francisco. Let's hear more from KGO.
Tonight, one man's way of trying to build a better Bay Area, although not one that police would recommend. Last year, San Francisco, there were more than 20,000 reported thefts from vehicles. ABC 7 News...
20,000 thefts from vehicles. And what's the population of San Francisco right now? Population San Francisco. 1.3 million. So that is, that's like what? Almost 1% of everyone in San Francisco has had their car broken into just last year, and the number keeps going up.
ABC 7 News reporter Luz Pena spoke with a San Francisco resident.
Oh, wait, that was San Diego. Excuse me. San Francisco's 800,000. Yeah, that's like 3 or 4%.
ABC 7 News reporter Luz Pena spoke with a San Francisco resident and business owner who has taken it upon himself to fight back and protect his neighborhood. She's in the newsroom with an interview and a story you'll see only on ABC 7. Luz?
Yes, Dan, the San Francisco resident you're about to meet says he's hoping to help his neighborhood. At first, he was yelling at thieves who were breaking into cars. Now he's walking around the area hoping to scare them off.
We got a guy on patrol. Well, since the writer's strike and the actor's strike, there's nothing new on TV. You got to do something to kill those late night hours.
He's lived in San Francisco for over 20 years, and lately, instead of going by his legal name, people call him...
I'm called Boots. I'm working...
I don't think I expected that. This man's name is Boots because he's the boots on the ground.
Of going by his legal name, people call him.
I'm called Boots, working from outside rather than inside.
Covering his face with a ski mask to protect his identity, Boots walks around his neighborhood.
And to make sure that he is an emblem. He is an image. He is something that the criminals can see and they can fear. He's doing Batman, beat for beat. And I'm here for it.
Covering his face with a ski mask to protect his identity, Boots walks around his neighborhood, Fisherman's Wharf, looking like this and with a non-lethal weapon on his waist that looks like a gun. His goal is to scare off thieves from breaking into cars.
The criminals are getting to know us. I wouldn't call it an organized anything. It's just...
Wait, there are more of them? How many masked men are in San Francisco protecting the streets?
The criminals are getting to know us. I wouldn't call it an organized anything. It's just concerned citizens. Every day is a small victory. You know, you chase them off from one corner.
For years, he's captured...
How come this can't be a TikTok trend? If we've got all these TikTok trends of people being criminals, why can't we start giving likes, giving shares, and giving follows to people in social media that are stopping criminals? I would watch that.
For years, he's captured videos of car break-ins, and now he says frustration led him to take matters into his own hands. He says he's doing it to help the area where he lives and owns a business.
The tourists aren't going to come here. The business of some people that, you know, have lived here and been here for their entire lives, and it's not fair.
According to SFPD's incident data, on average, there are 67 thefts from vehicles every day in San Francisco.
San Francisco is a small city. That is a lot of car break-ins. No wonder we need Batman.
Outside of this brunch spot, employees see car break-ins on a daily basis.
They just leave all their stuff in there, and then boom shakalaka, less than 5 seconds, they grab your stuff and they're gone.
Haven't heard of boom shakalaka since the NBA Jam days, but I'm here for it.
They just leave all their stuff in there, and then boom shakalaka, less than 5 seconds, they grab your stuff and they're gone.
Many who work here share a common sense of helplessness.
I'm frustrated too, and you can't do anything.
Yesterday, while Boots was walking in the area, SFPD arrested him for brandishing an imitation firearm.
Wait, that's something you get arrested for? All the other nonsense, the open-air drug markets, the people injecting needles into their skin, the car break-ins. We're arresting Boots because he's protecting the streets? Come on.
For brandishing an imitation firearm, which is a misdemeanor.
We don't recommend anyone doing that. We understand everyone.
So he needs something more like a batarang.
We don't recommend anyone doing that. We understand everyone's frustration. Officers are frustrated in taking the number of police reports regarding auto burglaries occurring throughout the city.
And you got to remember, that's reported auto burglaries. How many people have thrown their hands up and are not calling because there's nothing that can be done about it, or they get laughed off the phone? So it might be more like 120 a day.
However, there is a system in place to do that.
SFPD says they're short-staffed, but to Boots, even though he was arrested, he viewed this as another victory.
While the police were there, there was nobody getting their car broken into for that half hour.
There's no way to...
Actually, that's a fantastic point, because now the police are going to have their eyes on Boots, the masked vigilante, which means there will actually be surveillance on the streets that Boots is on, and chances are the criminals will not try to break into cars, and if they do, they might actually get arrested. Go, Boots, go!
While the police were there, there was nobody getting their car broken into for that half hour.
There's no way to truly know if what he's doing is working. We met this couple from New York who did the unthinkable.
I see your suitcases in the back. Yes, I guess we're lucky that nothing happened.
Or maybe thieves are noticing.
There is some protection here.
That's right. That's our hero, Mr. Boots. Wouldn't recommend carrying the fake gun, but there's got to be something you can carry around that will get the attention of the criminals, because there is someone coming out for you. And Boots isn't alone. Not only is there a masked vigilante in San Francisco, there are other residents and business owners that are realizing they've got to be more, and I hate using this word because it's a fake word, proactive in doing something about the rampant crime. Because as a business owner, you know that without tourists, without people feeling safe, they're not going to be giving you any of their money. That is why you have the owners of a bike rental shop near the Golden Gate Bridge who are doing everything they can to make sure their patrons don't get their cars broken into. For more, let's go back to KGO.
Yesterday, we introduced you to...
Same reporter.
Yesterday, we introduced you to Boots.
The criminals are getting to know us. I wouldn't call it an organized anything. It's just concerned citizens.
A San Francisco business...
Got a whole secret society up there.
A San Francisco business owner at Fisherman's Wharf who walks around the neighborhood with a ski mask and a non-lethal weapon that looks like a gun. His goal is to scare off thieves from breaking into cars. Today, we went back to dig deeper into this issue and found another business owner taking matters into his own hands.
It's just a really bad situation, and we need help.
Inside Blazing Saddles, Jeff and his team have...
Okay, fantastic name for a bike shop. Love it. No complaints. 5 out of 5 stars.
Inside Blazing Saddles, Jeff and his team have a standard welcome line at this point.
Basically, we open with, hey, welcome, guys. You ready to bike the bridge? Also, where did you park your car? Is it on the street? You need to bring your valuables inside.
Hello, tourist. We're so glad you came here to rent a bicycle to do the Golden Gate Bridge. It's a beautiful, foggy day here in San Francisco. Do you have anything of any value, including loose change or a water bottle in your car? If you do, bring it up. Put it in the locker.
Basically, we open with, hey, welcome, guys. You ready to bike the bridge? Also, where did you park your car? Is it on the street? You need to bring your valuables inside.
They're not only renting bikes, but also preventing car break-ins.
You have a very peculiar job here.
Yes, I do. Among many things, I give out these little signs to our customers. Please not break into this car. There are no valuables inside. Your mother and grandmother would be very disappointed in you.
That'll teach them. You know what? I'm just going to have that sign. It's like, an electronics store that always has the going out of business sale sign. You can have always on the side door a sticker that says, there is nothing of value in this car. Do not break in. And then the grandma and grandpa thing, that's great.
Please not break into this car. There are no valuables inside. Your mother and grandmother would be very disappointed in you.
And if that wasn't enough, they even offer storage to their customers.
And we have them bring them in. They put them in our lockers.
We also...
Now, this is something you're dealing with the problem in a different way. The smart thing would be to go after the criminals, the rampant crime, especially property crime, and take it seriously. Even though it's not a violent crime, it should still be taken seriously because you're destroying people's lives, destroying their livelihoods, and preventing a city from coming back to life that's on the brink right now. But we can't do anything about that. So if you operate a business, you're going to need locker space because people are going to need to, like when you go to a fancy hotel and they hold on to your bags while you go explore the city. Every business needs that for every possible thing because you cannot use your car as storage for anything anymore.
And we have them bring them in. They put them in our lockers.
We also found stickers on parking meters that read car break-in area. These tourists from China saw it and put their bags away.
I put inside this, try to hide.
We tracked down the person who had this idea. Meet Randall Scott with Fisherman's Wharf Community Benefit District.
So on certain parking meters, he puts a sticker that says, warning, your car will probably get broken into. I would assume he has put them on every parking meter in the city.
With Fisherman's Wharf Community Benefit District, Randall and his team are also responsible for the signs throughout the wharf. They've been doing this for years.
We also have an overnight patrol that tries to keep the streets as safe as possible.
According to SFPD's incident reports, thefts from vehicles have been increasing across the city, but not back to pre-pandemic levels. However, in the Central Police District...
Well, that's not still a badge of honor. They're going up. They keep going up.
However, in the Central Police District...
Maybe what we need to do is spread a rumor that if you break into a car, you'll get COVID.
However, in the Central Police District, where tourist areas like Fisherman's Wharf, Chinatown, and downtown are located, there were about 1,000 more incidents reported in 2022 than in 2019.
Okay. So in the really bad parts of town, it's through the roof.
In this district...
Actually, those aren't the bad parts of town. Those are the good parts of town. What the hell?
In this district in 2020...
This isn't the Tenderloin. These are the tourist destinations.
In this district in 2022, there were about 19 vehicle thefts on average every day. Randall says he understands business owners like Boots. They have the same goal.
I completely understand why he's doing it. That's why we do all the signage and everything else like that. But that's a non-invasive, non-vigilante way of doing it.
Well, it's still something, and I'm glad to see that there are people that they're taking an interest in their community. There is a complete lack of what the local government can do for you, especially up there. London Breed's trying, but she's got several members of the Board of Supervisors in that city that do not believe in doing anything about the crime problem. And you've got a new district attorney there. That's a big deal as well. But people finally having enough and taking pride in their city. You know, it's one thing. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm going to move. I'm going to move somewhere safer, move somewhere cheaper. But I got to applaud the people that they're digging in. They're standing their ground and they're saying, I'm not going to let this happen in my city. And since San Francisco is always telling us what happens here soon, I'm sure we'll start seeing some of this down here in Los Angeles. It's only a matter of time, because when we see the things that we have seen, especially when it comes to places that get looted and robbed all the time, like the Melrose area or Beverly Grove, somebody has got to stand up, especially when it takes 48 minutes to get response from police. So we have covered extensively here in Los Angeles County the career of one George Gascon. And he's back on TikTok, and we'll have some of those videos later on in the week. But George Gascon was the first of many, quote, progressive DAs that are here to shake up the system and change what it means to be a prosecutor. He started this in San Francisco, made a much bigger splash coming down here to Los Angeles to beat out the incumbent Jackie Lacey. That's right. He wanted to be more equitable and progressive than the black woman. Somehow that made sense. But in his wake, you've had multiple copiers, multiple people trying to be like George Gascon, trying to emulate George Gascon, or in some cases be worse than George Gascon. We saw that in San Francisco with his replacement, Chesa Boudin. He was recalled handily in San Francisco. And the neighboring city of Oakland is now seeing a very similar problem. They elected a new DA in 2022. Pamela Price is her name. She's following the Gascon playbook of lowering sentences for a whole bunch of horrific crimes, including murders of children, because there's a lot of gang activity on the freeways in Oakland. She doesn't want to take crimes like robbery seriously, thinks that the entire criminal justice system is racist, and we need to throw it all out and start all over again. And what do you know? Just 6 months into her tenure as district attorney of Oakland, the residents are fed up and would like a change in leadership and are starting to pass around the petition for a recall. The recall campaign has begun for Pamela Price. Will it be successful, like the Chesa Boudin one in San Francisco, or will it not get enough signatures, like the one in Los Angeles County, for you-know-who? Let's find out more from KPIX 5.
The effort to recall Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price is moving forward. Organizers of the recall say her progressive approach has them concerned. We have made several attempts to interview her about the recall and some of her more controversial decisions, but she has always refused, saying she was just too busy.
Isn't that funny how all of a sudden, once there's a campaign to remove her from office, now she'll make herself available to the local media? It just goes to show you, Gascon did the exact same thing. He does not do any interviews with local media, but when it was getting real close to signature gathering time, he was finally doing the hits and not just friendly interviews. He was going on Channel 11. He was going on Channel 7. And it never went well for him. So here, Pamela Price finally doing interviews after stonewalling because she's too busy saving Oakland. Let's see what she has to say about criticism of her office, which is doing everything Gascon does down here, but even worse.
Of her more controversial decisions, but she has always refused, saying she was just too busy.
That was until...
And by the way, I believe I remember this right. When she first got elected, there was some controversy because she put out a memo saying, you have to refer to me as Madam District Attorney. That's fantastic.
That was until today, when Betty Yu faced her in a one-on-one with the embattled prosecutor. family members of victims are saying that the decisions you have made are unfair to them, that sentences that criminals have been given are excessively lenient, and that perpetrators are favored over victims. What's your response to that?
I feel definitely my heart goes out to the people who have lost loved ones in this community.
Well, if you did, you'd be advocating for them instead of advocating for the criminals. But sure, everyone's got to have this sad sob story. No, I do care about the victims.
At the district attorney's office are very, very committed to making sure that we're providing the best services. Some people are not able to actually appreciate the work that we do.
You just don't appreciate what we're doing when we give a lenient sentence to the person that killed or robbed your family member.
The work of Pamela Price has been focused on progressive reforms, including alternatives to incarceration and not charging juveniles as adults.
Even when the crimes are incredibly heinous.
Now official paperwork to launch a recall has been filed.
There are people who say that we are here because they don't feel safe.
I was elected because the people in this community didn't feel safe, unfortunately. We know that crime under my predecessor was, pretty much exploding. The DA's role has really no impact on crime.
Hold on a second. She claims in the same breath that she was elected because crime was so out of control under her predecessor, and crime's been pretty bad in Oakland, but yes, it's gotten worse in the last 6 months. Heck, we have been covering it every single day here. But to say this?
The DA's role has really no impact on crime.
Then how do you explain actual prisoners cheersing people like George Gascon in prison with Pruno the second he got elected? People touting his name to their attorneys, to other inmates, because this guy's going to help us get out. You say that you have no impact?
The DA's role has really no impact on crime.
I don't know. When you get into office and immediately announce that you're not going to file charges on a whole bunch of categories of crimes, that's a signal that the criminals could kind of run free. When you're showing that you're not going to go with the enhancements for severe, heinous, awful crimes, that's given the criminals a signal that they can kind of do whatever they want because there are no consequences. But of course, Pam Price says, no, that has nothing to do with my office.
The DA's role has really no impact on crime.
Oakland police have recently warned residents about a surge in violence, including an uptick in home invasion robberies.
Again, she's not responsible for that.
Do you feel safe living in Oakland?
Yes, I do. I live in East Oakland even, and I know a lot of people think, oh, that's terrible. I feel safe.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Betty, I don't think you asked about the achievements of the first 6 months.
No. That was my next question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Less than halfway into our 15-minute interview, Price's PR person pointed me to ask about her accomplishments.
Whoa! Okay, major props to KPAX for putting this in the report. So, the reporter is asking tough questions because the DA is facing a recall, and 2 questions in, the PR person stops the reporter and says, hey, when are you going to ask her about all her accomplishments? That's not how this works. I know she hasn't done many interviews, so she doesn't know how this works, but you don't get to dictate what the questions are. That's not how things work when we have a free press. And I know a lot of people like to criticize the media, but your local media, your local TV news, your local radio stations, they are out there getting the word out. They are out there getting people to answer the questions that the constituents want to hear. You don't get to dictate the interview, Pamela Price.
I live in East Oakland even, and I know a lot of people think, oh, that's terrible. I feel safe.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Betty, I don't think you asked about the achievements of the first 6 months.
No.
This isn't a propaganda interview. This is an actual question and answer. I absolutely, you know this crap happens all the time because it's very hard to get a lot of these people. You don't hear a lot of local politicians here in Los Angeles County on this show. You hear some of them, but you don't hear nearly as much of them as we want because they won't come on the show. because then they can't control the narrative. Who knows what we would ask George Gascon? Who knows what we would ask Karen Bass? We, of course, would want to keep it respectful. And there are a lot of things with someone like Karen Bass that I agree with her on. A lot of things I disagree as well. But you have somebody here like Pamela Price that specifically is telling reporters what to ask in an interview. That is obscene.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Betty, I don't think you asked about the achievements of the first 6 months.
No. That was my next question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Less than halfway in.
Hello, thank you so much for sitting with me. Tell me all the great things that you say you've done in the last 6 months. Okay, interview over. I'm so glad they didn't fall for that. And by the way, when I listen to a story like this, I try to see who does the best rap. So I listened to the KPIX one, the KTVU one, and the NBC Bay Area one. And the NBC Bay Area one opens with that question of, tell us about all your accomplishments in the last 6 months.
Less than halfway into our 15-minute interview, Price's PR person pointed me to ask about her accomplishments.
What are the metrics that you're using to gauge your success?
I think the metrics are, we're beginning to create a baseline for the data that we have. Unfortunately, we got here and the technology is pretty much outdated.
Families.
No, the sign of your success is that people in your community feel safe, which they do not. We see the stories every single day on the local news. They're even armed robbing donut stands.
I think the metrics are...
If you rent a car in Oakland, the rental place tells you make sure not to use the gas station right outside here because it will get stolen. That's a problem. You don't seem to be taking that seriously. Whenever you hear any of these people, Boudin, Price, Gascon, talk about data, you can skew that data to show whatever you want. If there is actually an increase in people getting arrested, people getting convicted, charges being filed, and we start to see less of that element on the streets, people would notice.
I think the metrics are...
But we're not going to do that because the entire incarceration system is racist, which, okay, there is absolutely an argument that at a certain point, you saw black and brown people being charged and being sentenced at worse rates than whites for similar crimes. So my response is, put the white crackhead in jail too.
I think the metrics are, we're beginning to create a baseline for the data that we have. Unfortunately, we got here and the technology is pretty much outdated.
Families of victims believe Price has been pushing for the shortest possible sentences.
There's a lot of families that are victims of Pamela Price's and the system that she's trying to create. And it will be 3 months on Tuesday of my son's death.
Police said her son Blake was shot to death by a shoplifter who stole a charger for a power tool at this Pleasanton Home Depot. Lori Mose said the prosecutor on the case told her Benicia Knaps, the accused killer, will face a murder charge and an enhancement that carries the least amount of prison time. Our story with the...
Why do we need to go soft on somebody that murders somebody at a Home Depot? Why are we going soft on that? Oh, we could totally reform that.
Our story with the most...
And it's another insane indictment of this whole system, is that you have all these DAs who say our jail system is so broken, our prison system is so broken, that people come out worse than when they go in. So instead of applying to become wardens, instead of trying to reform that system to make it this rehabilitation haven that you think can exist, maybe it can, works in some countries. No, instead of doing that, let's not have people go to prison at all. Let's have alternatives to incarceration. That's not working.
Our story with the Mose family caught the attention of lawmakers on Capitol Hill, where she recently testified.
And we should be charging the case based on facts and not on personal opinion or personal agenda.
Since I haven't had any conversation with her, reading me some statement that she made, I think that's not fair.
Would you like me to play it for you? Would that help?
No.
Price refused to address any specific case.
She's so rude, but in a folksy way.
Price refused to address any specific cases. She has argued that...
No, but she wanted to make sure that you talked about her successes in the last 6 months. We might have someone that's worse than George Gascon. And that's saying something.
Price refused to address any specific cases. She has argued that adding enhancements disproportionately affects black and brown people.
Anytime.
Then charge the white people who commit the murders with the same enhancements. No more disproportionality. I do not care what color your skin is when you commit a crime. If you commit a crime, then you need to go to prison. Isn't that the way to fix this problem instead of the insane way, which is, well, then we're not going to put anybody in prison. What? We're not going to use any enhancements. What? We're not going to apply 3 strikes. These are not fixes to the problem. You're creating a much bigger problem.
She has argued that adding enhancements disproportionately affects black and brown people.
Anytime that we can divert someone from the criminal justice system, that is a goal, because the criminal justice system has been shown to be racially biased.
In your pursuit of achieving...
That's right. People can't go to prison because prison is racist. This is an elected official. She won an election. There are enough pissed off voters that she might get kicked out of office, but she won, and that is scary, and is why we all need to pay attention to who we're voting for, even in these offices. I think ever since 2020 with George Gascon, people are starting to realize just how powerful of a position this is. You know, there are a lot of things that you vote for that it's not that big a deal because it's not that big of a job. They can't really do anything. Even controller. Everyone's freaking out about Kenneth Mejia getting elected to controller in L.A. County. That job has absolutely no power. So guess what? You haven't heard a peep out of Kenneth Mejia in 6 months because that job doesn't really do anything. District attorney, that's a huge one.
Racially biased.
In your pursuit of achieving equity, it is favoring perpetrators over victims. Is that correct?
That's absolutely not true. Often what studies have shown, and it's true in Alameda County, many times people who are perpetrators or labeled as perpetrators were actually victims.
Wow. You know, we always say that this is what they really want, but she just came out and said it. That wasn't edited? That made it in the interview that she thought was going so well? Listen to that again. Pamela Price, the district attorney facing recall in Alameda County, straight up says the perpetrators are the victims.
Often what studies have shown, and it's true in Alameda County, many times people who are perpetrators or labeled as perpetrators were actually victims.
Down is up, I guess.
Price's PR person pushed to wrap our interview before our allotted time was up.
I hope that moving forward we will have more access to you.
I doubt it, quite frankly.
And she's a quite franklier. Welcome to the board, Pamela Price. As I mentioned, whenever I do a story like this, I try to listen to every single station's version of the wrap to see which one's best. And sometimes different news stories, they bring out different elements. And I love that this got brought up in the KTVU piece on Pamela Price's recall. When asked about the recall petition, Pamela Price's office compared a recall of a public official, which is completely legal and used quite often in the state of California, to the January 6th insurrection.
These are election deniers.
Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price doubling down on a controversial statement released by her office earlier this week, comparing the backers of a new campaign to recall her from office with those behind the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol.
When you lose an election, you shouldn't be able to overturn the will of the voters. That's what happened in the insurrection in January 6th.
Yeah, but this isn't overturning the will of the voters. This is the voters using a legal ability in the state constitution to fire somebody from office for doing a bad job. But Pamela Price doesn't want to have that accountability for herself. We'll be following this recall and seeing where it goes. Is it going to go the Boudin way? Is it going to go the Gascon way? We will find out. Coming up next, we will talk to a man who knows all things in the state of California, Alex Michelson, anchor at Fox 11 at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock, and host of the statewide political show. The Issue Is. He will join us next on The John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here on Talk Radio 790 KABC.